Hey everybody, and welcome back to the HobbyDude007 channel and the Model Car Cup Series. Well, we're back on our Saturday night short track group build 71 Mustang, and today I'm going to be working on bracing up the rear of the chassis and creating the mounts for the fuel cell. I'm going to be making some modifications and kind of updating the fuel cell itself, and we're going to start our prep work for our engines. And if we have time, we'll probably touch on a couple other things throughout the day, but right now this is going to be our main focus. So let's get busy. Before we get to the Mustang, I wanted to do a quick reminder on a show upcoming on September 7th in Greenville, Tennessee. It's hosted by the Appalachian Scale Modelers Association and co-sponsored by our buddy Wes over at Wes's Model Car Corner. The information on the host hotel, and there's a special rate there, and the show information can be found on their website, or excuse me, their Facebook page. So you can go right to the Facebook page and you can download the brochure as well as the categories and click on the section that says file on the Facebook page. When you open the file, you'll find the registration form and you can print that off, as well as the model entry form, so you can be already filled out, ready to go when you get there. And if you're in the area of Western North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee, well, it doesn't matter if you don't mind driving a little ways to some shows. I do it quite often. The fun, the fellowship, and the shopping are always worth it. So if you're in the area of Greenville, Tennessee, on September the 7th, or you can make plans to be there. Amanda and I, as I've mentioned before, will be there covering the show and doing some shopping and fellowshipping as well. So if you're in the area, hey, show these guys some support. It's going to be a fun time. All right, to the Mustang. Okay, first up, we're going to go ahead and take these little ears or horns, I guess you would say, off of the front of the chassis here, and we'll get these sanded and rounded, smoothed out. Then we're going to move back here to the rear, and we're going to make our support bar here for the shocks, as well as the framework for the fuel cell, and we'll just use the fuel cell to create the brackets that we need there and how they will attach to the chassis. And of course we'll show you all this stuff once that's done. We want to get this done first, and while this is drying, we're going to start working on the fuel cell a little bit. And what I want to do on this fuel cell is this is from Hurd Hobbies, by the way. It's 3D print and it is beautiful, but I am going to take all of this upper stuff off. And if you see the plate here, we're going to remove that and we're going to replace it with Model Car Garage Stock Car Fuel Cell Inlet Photo Etch. And then we'll drill the fuel cell out and we'll have that photo etch material to go in there, and we'll just rebuild these out of solder and aluminum, the overflow tube as well as the inlet. And we'll let you see that as we go along too, and we'll try to get that in primer before the hopefully all of this stuff is going to be in primer by the end of this video. Some of it may even have some base color on it. On the engines and transmissions, these are from our buddy Matthew over at MCV Products, so head over to mcvproducts.net, check it out. Got a couple different styles of intakes, 2 sets of heads, water pumps, valve covers. This particular car had it's kind of like chrome, but more of a polished up aluminum on the valve covers. And by the way, these valve covers are beautiful. I'm hoping you can see this. Ford Racing. And that is what's on the car. And I've also got an extra couple of sets of valve covers here. And one of the spare engines actually had a set of blue valve covers on it. So we're gonna kind of play with that and see what looks best. Also, I think I've shared this with you before, but Matthew does a thing. It's a 3-step risers, carburetor spacers. But these risers here, now this is 2 of the 3 that come in the set. You see there's a thin and then one a little bit taller, and then there's one that's a little taller yet. But you can put that spacer in there. But I'm going to go ahead and paint up a couple of these and see on this forward intake, you see how low that sits. I thought a spacer on this and then the carb would look much better. So we'll be getting those painted and that on there. We're going to get all this stuff in some primer too and get some of our, like I said, accents on it. A few other things that if time permits today, because I'm devoting the whole day just to this car, and we'll see what we can get done. On the seat, I've already started a little bit of stuff here. You can see where this has been cleaned up and opened up a little bit more. There were seat belts that were molded into this seat. This seat is from an AMT stock car, and this is the style that Lonnie actually sat in this Mustang. So I took my sanding stick and I got all the seat belt removed. Took our number 11 blade, and you can see where we rescribed. And I'm going to do that one more time all the way down through there where the padding is. And the lap also had seat belts molded in. So again, we took our sanding stick and we removed that, and again rescribed the lines for the pads in there. Now the next thing we're going to need to do, just like where the seat belts come through here, we're going to have to cut a hole here and here for the seat belts, the lap belts to come up through, and the lower belt, the sub belt, I'm going to cut just a slight notch right here where it mounts to that bar that's on the floor that comes up between the legs there. So that'll be done. And again, if we have time after all of this, I want to move to that deck lid and start getting our measurements and taking a look at what we're going to have to do to create that. We've already got all those mold marks and everything sanded out and removed. And also then we're going to take a look at, this is 20 thousandths evergreen. And we'll have to put our little slight bend there on the end, and I'll show you the tool we're going to use to do that, to make it nice and even. And then we'll have that rear spoiler mounted back there, and we'll have to of course even everything up there. But I'm not worried about this right now so much as we want to go ahead and do this. Back on that engine real quick, something I forgot to share with you is the oil pan. Now check this out. This is the oil pan that comes with that kit, and it is accurate, and it is the 289 I had actually had that same look of an oil pan. I guess you can see that. But it is accurate and it's good. But because of the sump type system that this car ran, this is not going to work. So I'm going to have to either scratch build. I'm going to look through some boxes and see what I can come up with stock car wise for like a sump tank type system. And we'll take a look at it. But I got a feeling I'm going to have to scratch build. I may modify this one. I'm not sure yet. I'm just going to look through some stuff and see what I can come up with before I make that decision. But that's what we're going to do today. And a couple things I did want to go ahead and share with you on the engine, moving back to it. The distributor, well, in the package, it's kind of hard to see, that I'm wanting to use on these. And I have two different sets of aluminum pulleys for the engine. This is one of the old machined aluminum specialties NASCAR pulley sets. This parts by parts set is about the exact same thing. I like the inset cut on the parts by parts, so I'm gonna look at them both once I get the engine, the water pumps, and the the cranks drilled out for the pulleys and the belts, and then we'll look at it from there. Something else I wanted to share with you real quick on those seat belts we're going to be using for the seats. And I know, guys, I'm bouncing all over the place. Sorry about that, but I keep looking over and seeing stuff and going, oh, I forgot to mention that. This is Gopher Racing's racing seats, seat belts, and these, you have 2 sets in a pack. I'm going to be using the blue on this. They come in blue, black, and red, and you see the 2 sets of photo etch, the hardware for the seat belts for the safety harnesses. And then there's even some decals back there for different brands. Cool stuff. Oh, just noticed something else in my pile of goodies here that I wanted to share with you too. And that is, this car was from the 70s, and I think 78, 79. And the window net was one of the early types, so it was, I call it the string type. It had the real thin netting, and Plastic Performance Products makes the 70 and 80 string and ribbon type of window nets, and there's something really cool about this stuff. You see how they, when they're hanging, they kind of droop a little bit in the centers. Well, the cool thing about these is nets are flexible enough to bend, and they are. They're very flexible, guys. Check this out. So if you like to hang it out the window and down by the door, you may do so. Or I always like to hang my window nets on the inside, down beside the driver on the inside of the window net. And as you can see, you can do that. But these are very, very flexible, and they're really cool. And for the era, they're spot on. And check this one out that Bobby Isaac ran when they that first year in 1970, when they started requiring them to do the window nets. Somebody was missing a piece of their grill, I think. But isn't that cool and kind of weird? All right. But I wanted to make you aware of those. Very nice, very cool. Okay, guys, I'm going to get back over on this chassis. We're going to get as much done as we can throughout the day today on everything, see what we can get in primer, all of that stuff. We'll see what happens, as long as I don't get distracted. All right, guys, a fun day at the workbench for sure. Got a whole lot done. We'll start up front on the chassis here. You can see where we removed those bars. We'll be adding a few impact bars back up there in the next couple of videos. I want to get the body squared away first so we know where those need to be. Moving to the rear, you see where we got our fuel cell set up. Did have to make a change in the fuel cell. The more I looked at it, it was just hanging too far deep down here. So I went ahead and pulled a fuel cell out of one of the Revell ASA kits and started doing some good modifications to that, as you see here. And I think that turned out pretty good. We've got it in primer, and as you see, the chassis is in primer as well. But as you see, we've got some bracing back here and for the fuel cell. And let me set this in here real quick. And, well, there we go. So she'll be sitting in there like that. Of course, all this is yet to be painted. This is the first coat of primer on everything, guys, so there's a lot yet to do. I'm going to smooth out a couple of areas here, create some new mounts. If you remember all those holes that were in here, those covered really nicely. The braces here, everything looks really good. Remember, we've got that little Nerf bar that comes down here and wraps around the fuel cell, kind of protect it. Our bracing there is done. Of course, the fuel cell is yet to be painted. The chassis is in Tamiya fine surface primer. I've got automotive filler primer on the fuel cell from some sanding scratches and stuff on that, but I think it's looking pretty good. We'll be popping that little Model Car Garage fuel plate off and getting all of this painted, and I think it overall this looks pretty good so far. Next up was the engine components. We've got all of it cleaned up really good and everything in primer. There's a few things that have some color. I'll show you that here in just a second. There's that rear end, and that's in the automotive primer, so it's a little darker as well. These came in today, some new Ford intakes from Matthew at MCV Products. Check that out. Are those not cool? Very detailed. So got them in primer this afternoon as well. Everything's looking really, really good. The valve covers and the heads are going to be in aircraft aluminum. So I've got our base coat, our gloss black base coat down on those, and I think they're looking really nice. And did a extra set of heads. Then the valve covers, the Ford Racing valve covers that we looked at, I'm going to do one set in chrome, one set in polished aluminum. And one of the spare engines on this particular car had the Grabber Blue, the Ford Grabber Blue. Hopefully that'll focus there. Valve covers on it. And for that, all we did was use some Ford Light Grabber Blue from MCW. This is number 2048. I like the lacquers, guys, but I also use the enamels. But the lacquers dry so fast and good shine on them. So I did up a set of these, and on the shelf in the shop there was a set of kind of a brass color. And check that out. Isn't that a cool finish? And this is just Model Master. I think this is still available in the small testers bottles. But this is the Model Master version, and it's just called brass. And pretty cool, huh? And to mix this, it's really, it's so thin, and it's not the metallizer, it's the regular, but it's thin enough that I only put 5 or 6 drops of thinner in it and shot it at about 20 psi, and you see the results there. And I'm going to use either the dark gray or light gray panel line, to me a panel line accents to, and I mean very lightly around the letters. There we go. And I'll do that, of course, with the Grabber Blue as well as the chrome and the polished aluminum. Anyway, I want to see how those look anyway. Next up was the seat. If you remember, we had already cleaned up the back section here, and you can see where we cut our little slot down here for the lower belt, as well as open up the sides there for the for the seat belts. And we also, where this wing came out here, you notice we removed it on the left side of the seat. Lonnie's did not have that. He did have the one on the other side. Of course, when you're going into the turn, you want that on there, kind of keep you centered in the seat there. But modified that a little bit. And again, this one is in the automotive filler primer, and I think it turned out pretty good. And we'll have 2 different colors on that, and we'll get to that in maybe the next video. On the deck lid, went ahead, as you see here, we took a piece of paper and measured out the inside of the trunk. We wanted to give this some 3-dimension look, so we did just a small base section of 10 thousandths, transferred the size on our paper over to 10 thousandths sheet plastic, and as you can see here, we cut out our the insides, and then we started building that up with 20 by 20 thousandths and then 20 by 30 thousandths in different places, and this is your result here. And I think it looks pretty good. Now, this is the first coat of primer, and there is going to have to be some putty added back here and there to give it a good smooth transition. Usually when I do this, it takes a little time. This is one of the reasons I want to do these, start doing these in 3D. So I've got some decent amount of work to build this back up and get it back to the dimensions, and from the side you can see how it steps up there a little, but there's more to go. and but I think it's looking pretty good. The spoiler on the rear, this is in the Tamiya primer, and you see we got just a slight, hopefully you can see the slight bend there. It's not going to need much because of the indentation along the back of the trunk, so I was very careful how I bent that, because you see with that on the hood, or excuse me, on the back, that little indentation, when that's on there, that gives you a good kickback on the spoiler. So I think it's looking pretty good. But still tons to do. Still working on that oil pan. I believe we're going to get that squared away and looking good. But we did get, like I said, a lot done today. So looking forward to that. Be back on the phone booth tomorrow. Got everything pretty much cured. I was checking that just a few minutes ago. It's looking really good, so I'm going to be back on that. And at this point, it's just got a lot of little things to do. So we'll be getting back on that. Then I'm going to be back on this chassis, and then we'll get into the suspension and a few other little, the lower section of the roll bars, all that kind of stuff too. All right, guys, head over to HobbyNut Models, get you some of that great MCW paint. If you need some grabber blue, if you want it in enamel, it would be 2048E. But good stuff, good stuff. They've got everything. Okay, guys, that's it. Appreciate you sticking around for this one. Look forward to getting back on it, getting excited about both these things. All right, guys, God bless. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks.